Great to have you all here. Thank you. It's a beautiful day here from the University of Montana on the banks of the Clark Fork River. Welcome, Mark Walker from Nue.
Hey, thanks, Tom.
Great to have you here.
Yeah, it's great to be here.
We're going to be on the river enjoying the Clark Fork a little bit later, a baseball game and a barbecue. Lots of fun. I want to thank the audience for being here. Thank you, Ravis, Cognizant, the whole group, First Chair, Henry Schein One, the Trade Desk, SAS Consulting Group, Metronome, Zilliant, MGI Research, LeafLink, PDQ, Venture Tech Group, Pierce Washington, Salesforce, and Zendesk. Did I miss anybody? Coastal Cloud. Thank you. Sorry, Coastal Cloud. Times two. So fantastic. Great to be here. It feels like old times. We used to do this all the time pre-COVID of getting the best and the brightest minds from quote to cash, from ISVs, from SIs, from customers and prospects. Let's get real and let's talk about quote to cash and what's happening. And that's what we're here to do today.
And I want to make a point. All the new people, meaning NUE people, can you guys all put up your hands or stand up actually? Okay. So why are we here in person, right? So that you can ask questions, so it can be informal, so you can drill into things. And many of those people you already know, a bunch of them you'll get to know, but tap them, pull them into a corner, ask them hard stuff.
We're going to talk about a couple of things. First, I really want Mark to give us an overview of Nue. We're going to then talk a little bit about the market conditions, and the TLDR on that is it sucks right now. I think I've been doing this for 35 years. Randy, you've been in this space for a very long time. And for forever, it's been what's software, what's the state of software, what's the state of consulting, and what's the state of clients' ability to take those things and get to the outcomes that they want. And man, it's really hard. It's really a grind right now. A lot of the software providers that we've relied on for decades are stumbling a little bit. And thank goodness there's some innovation in the market. We're going to be talking about that. And then Mark's going to take us through Nue's vision of what a partner ecosystem is. The software can only get you so far. And I'm going to talk a little bit about my view of the software relative to some of the industry peers. But then I'm going to ask Mark to take a little bit about why this event is so important and why it takes a village to get successful outcomes for clients in quote to cash. But let's just start, Mark, with Nue's vision and origin story and how you came to Nue.
It's a great story. So I didn't create Nue. I actually sold a company a few years back in the NetSuite Salesforce ecosystem to TA. We owned it outright, so that was great. And I was basically planning to go kiteboarding for a long time, not forever, but for a very long time. And then a friend of mine, a VC, said, hey, will you take a look at this quote to cash company, Nue? And I'm like, yeah, quote to cash. I've seen a lot in 20 years in SaaS. And I met Tina Kung, the founder and CTO now of Nue. And she was able to give me the clearest problem statement, clearest solution statement, the clearest go-to-market plan, or actually the clearest problems of why it would be hard to execute this go-to-market, and the most audacious go-to-market plan I'd ever heard. And somebody can pull me off later to do it, but basically her overall thesis was that quoting is configuring billing. And that's why we do it in systems, right? It's absurd that the quoting system and the billing system aren't the same system. And the same thing is true about self-service, and the same thing is true about consumption, and that in a multi-channel, multi-revenue model, very fast accelerating world, the edges between these two things are going to be, these two different systems are going to cause some problems. She also very audaciously said that Salesforce CPQ was going to be dead in early 2025. Nailed it. She literally wrote that in her business plan. And the reason she knew that is she'd been a steel brick, and she knew what the problems would be, and she had a pretty firm view of what the market would be like then. And she said that Zora was already dead. And some of the evidence for that is all the people in this room on our team who are from Zora. And so we very audaciously raised a lot of money, because building Nue is like building another NetSuite. It's a very big application. And we went on and built it, and with the vision of being ready for this economy. Now, the part of it we didn't predict, because I don't think anybody predicted it, was the emergence of ChatGPT and the emergence of large language models and the staggering impact that will make on the economy in the next 3 years. That's just a lucky break for us, but it's going to change everything. What you're going to see as you guys engage with Nue, those of you who haven't engaged with it yet, is the reason why OpenAI could go live in 8 weeks, and that's becoming more the norm, and the reason why people take entire quote-to-cash implementations to get them live in 4 months, actually, Chili Piper just did the entire thing in 3 months, right, is that there's only one data model. that means when you change things in one place, you automatically change them everywhere else. So we can get into more of that later in the training, but that's the big difference. And our view of the world is, technically, is that's the way it has to be. Our view of the world economically, or in terms of our place in the ecosystem, is that any technology provider has to understand that they're only part of the solution. That doesn't just mean that we're only part of the solution and we need SIs and consultants. That's a very part of the answer. But it also means that we need to be able to work well with others. Metronome's in the room. We're building a very close relationship with them because we have so many joint customers, and they don't really want to figure out how these two systems should work together. We are going to figure out how these systems work together.
I want to interrupt you for a second. That's unusual. ISVs very often are very proprietary. There's a little bit that's competitive with what I have. I don't want to work with them and collaborate with them. It's early in the relationship there, but tell me the ethos of Nue, because that's refreshing. I see other ISVs be a little bit too secretive.
I think it comes down to who you are as a company, right? Tina's been very successful previously. I've been very successful previously. We're not really here just to make money. We're here to actually make a difference. I asked Tina once, a little while ago, if somebody came along and offered us X or Y or Z, would you sell the company? And she said, Mark, it doesn't matter what that number is. We're not done. Our mission was to make this better. So if your mission is to make things better for your customers and for the communities that we serve, then walling yourself off from the rest of the ecosystem isn't a bad idea. But it's also impractical if you think about it. If the pace of change is change, which is something that I really believe has happened, means things are going faster in more ways and faster than they ever went faster before. Betting that you're the only person with good ideas seems like a really stupid and arrogant thing to do. Going back to Metronome, they're world class at metering and converting information into billable elements. And they have different usage models than we have, and also the ability to intervene in ways that allow people to build different go-to-market ways in ways that we don't. Now, it's useful that we both do usage billing because that means our data models are really similar. But to suggest that we are going to be as good at what Metronome is world-class at is arrogant and probably ridiculous, and probably represents a lack of focus on being really world-class at what we do. And that's what I think drives us.
Perfect segue to the state of the market. I love the origin story because we just finished an 18-month research of 65 vendors, and origin story was very important. We have major players that started in payment and are moving upstream. You had folks that started in HubSpot acquired Cashflow and they're moving out of the front office into the back office. ServiceNow acquired Logic and is coming from infrastructure into enterprise apps. But there's only two companies, and one that we're really focused on, that started with CPQ and billing right out of the chute. And I know there's a lot of former ATGers here that understand the Venn diagram of the selling product catalog, the provisioning product catalog, and the billing product catalog. And that ability to really think about how different flavors of what a product and price and a discount looks like, and what a quote should match the invoice, duh. So I'm not sure why more people didn't start with CPQ and billing, but I think that's a key to your origin story. And it wasn't just starting, it was starting after cutting your teeth with Zora and cutting your teeth with Steelbrick, like not second mover advantage, third mover advantage. As we advance in our careers, we always learn. And so it feels like this is very smartly architected right out of the chute, what Tina did and the team.
I think really clarity of thought and clarity of mission leads to clarity of product, right? So two different ways of thinking about it. RCA has 27 objects that describe pricing. What do we sacrifice for that? We sacrifice being able to probably handle some of the pricing situations that apply to selling helicopter parts or configurable dishwashers, because that's not our ICP. Our ICP is a recurring revenue in all its forms, reoccurring in the sense of usage, recurring in the sense of subscriptions, and blended and hybrid models, right? So knowing which market you want to serve and building for that market allows you to have a good idea. The second thing is understanding the problem you're trying to solve. Quoting should be configuring billing always automatically, and so should self-service. Causes you to build in a certain way. And the way that Nue talks about ourselves internally is we're a billing company with a CPQ Trojan horse. Because you can buy our CPQ without buying the billing system. OpenAI, that's the way they started. And it just turns out the Trojan horse is so good that people will spend lots and lots of money just to buy the Trojan horse. But when Tina designed it, though, she designed it so the data model, even though it's going across multiple systems, is exactly the same. I think the reason why other people don't do it is maybe they didn't really understand the problem they were trying to solve, is one. And secondly, you had to be able to convince people to give you tens of millions of dollars way before you had revenue. We raised our A round on air, $2 million of ARR. That requires you to have a lot of veteran people on your team and a lot of confidence from the investors. So her pedigree allowed her to see the gaps and the problem clearly. And Changju, who was the original CTO of Zora, was part of that team and deserves a lot of credit for his support for her. But then the team that Tina and I built around us are industry veterans. When you walk in, everyone's going, do I believe these people can execute? Hell yeah.
This takes us to the pop quiz. No, you didn't think there was going to be a pop quiz, did you? We have about 50 CPQ experts in the room, clients, ISVs, consultants. What are some of the hardest things about CPQ? What are some of those hard functions? Anybody?
Cancel and replace.
Cancel and replace. Okay, excellent. Ramp pricing. Okay, let's get spicy. What else? Proration. Okay, I was going to wait when I said what are the problems between CPQ and billing. Proration. Excellent.
CPI uplifts.
Okay, excellent. I tell this story all the time that when I'm interrogating ISVs, it's like they're building product and it's great. I can get a quote out the door. Good for you. Can you renew it? Can you bundle products? Can you have more than one price per product? In product companies that launch with something simple and then they try to make it complex and they mess up all their customers who have to then re-implement it. And then with SIs, you've got 10 sprints and you're implementing, and sprint 9 is when you get to renewals. And it's rut-row. I got to go back to sprint 3 and refactor. We call it refactor. It's a fancy word for redo the product catalog. But clients make it sound better when you say we're refactoring based on new learnings. What I love about what Nue has done is they've tackled the hard stuff first. So all of those things are out of the box in Nue. And that is a very unique thing. And the product is still new, right? But one of the things that we found refreshing is the degree of maturity around the documentation. You can go back in time and your documentation is now public. The API is documented as well as Stripes, which is famous for leading the way there. You have training sessions, you have certification programs as a Series A funded company. There are Fortune 200 companies that don't have the maturity to have, first starts with SIs, to be able to understand how to implement this for the client. And then the goal isn't to go live, right? The goal is for the client to have a tool that they can manipulate in this environment that's changing very quickly. First of all, kudos to Nue.
Tina and our amazing product team, visionary, remarkable people.
The divide and conquer is we see clients, we see ISVs sometimes that steer too much to, I got this big client and I'm going to give up on my roadmap and I'm going to go make this one client happy. We see people that don't pay enough attention to their clients because I'm building out my roadmap. It feels like transparently you've really created an organization. If you can, maybe talk about the change of Nue from a year ago to today, because it feels like just in the last 3 months, you've added significant horsepower to be able to go to market at scale.
A bunch of different things, right? So why do we build out the hard things first? Because when we built the data model, we built the data model by understanding the hard things. Cancel and replace and was the demo that got me to leave kiteboarding and come in. What Tina did was she had a complex bundle and somebody wanted to switch from pro to enterprise, and it had subscriptions, it had one-time services in it, it had credits, credit pool. I don't think it was a credit pool at the time. I think it was just usage credits that had not been fully consumed. And she wanted to cancel. She canceled it and replaced it in 3 clicks. From a design ethos, and we have customers here, as both Andrew Cohen and Matt Piper know, we're not perfect any more than any other enterprise software company. This is really hard. But we try to always think about, in every single thing we do, what is the long-term implications of this? What will somebody need to do with this? How will it change this? In fact, the first things we ask in a discovery process with people is, what are your most complex changes? And that's, in fact, how we gate people on whether or not they're going to be a complex project. Once you have done, that means that you're going to add a ton of horsepower onto your product team initially. So this really big engineering team, testing and building all that out. And of course, it's not just at the CPQ level. Cancel and replace has implications for billing. What if you've already pre-billed it, and how much credits do you get back, and all of that stuff. As Andrew and his team will show the world quite quickly, you can make cancel and replace midterm in complex ways in self-service, which is game-changing, which is the prelude to agentic, if you think about it. Agentic is just self-service without an interface, right? So our first investment was engineering. The next investment we made, though, has been, we got Matt Rochester here, brought him over, come over to the dark side. One of the best things about getting some really high-powered industry veterans on your team is they can bring other high-powered industry veterans onto your team. And Matt has built out an SA team that are all differently industry veterans. We have some people who are hardcore billing specialists and hardcore CPQ specialists. We're getting people who are customers who wanted to join the company, which is amazing. And the reason we've invested in them, really ahead of our growth curve, is not to implement internally, although they'll be very useful to our internal implementations. Is to enable all of you to have peers that you respect to help you do the crawl, walk, run. If there's anything worse than not having a project, it's having a project you don't know how to do, or having a project where you're struggling to deliver value to your customer. And we are very committed to enabling this team. I think I said last night when I raised this money and people are like, what are you going to spend the money on? Sales and marketing? I'm like, no. Enablement. How do we help other people grow their business? And we'll talk more about how we're changing the business model as well. This community is absolutely vital. Even as we drive down the time to value, that's only part of the answer. The digital transformation that will cause inside companies, they need experienced leadership. Literally nobody wants to go down this journey alone, right?
I encourage you all, go look at the release notes. Go and look for intentionality and transparency and humility, right? We fixed this error that a customer found. We're not trying to sweep it under the rug. Here's an error, and we fixed it. And here's the roadmap capability. And you look back at, 40 or 50 different release notes twice a month, and just appreciate, I think, the rigor. And I encourage you to take a look at the documentation and compare it with some of the other vendors that we've been working with. We're going to be hands-on keyboard with Nue, learning this capability, the foundation of a partner ecosystem. That's what today is about, right? Is trying to reach out to expert practitioners across the board, find new partners, find new SIs and things like that. I'm interested to hear from a few of your customers. I think that we're going to conclude our remarks here and take a short break, and then we'll be back with some of Nue's customers.
It should be a very interesting conversation. We have Andrew Daly here from MGI to lead it. Those two customers I just mentioned, PDQ and LeafLink, both of whom are on the journey to run extraordinarily large parts of their business with Nue, using essentially everything we do.
Outstanding.
Yeah.
Great. Thanks for your time, Mark. Thanks,
you.
everybody.